Thank you. I see it's 1:15. I'm just checking to see if everybody's back, and are we currently recording?
We are currently recording. We are ready
Great.
to go on this end whenever you are.
Great, thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I will take a roll call to assure that everyone's back. Renee Barker.
I'm back.
Great, thank you. Indira Cameron Banks. I think I heard Indira. Sung Oh.
I'm here.
Nicole Tebow.
Here.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a nice little break. We'll continue with the agenda. We're on agenda item 8, discussion and consideration of draft frequently asked questions related to AB 1286. Members, you recall as a part of our discussion in the implementation of Assembly Bill 1286, given the comprehensive nature of the measure, we determined development of a frequently asked questions was appropriate. Next for our consideration are draft FAQs prepared by staff that cover the various provisions of the bill. I've had an opportunity to review the FAQs and believe that they are comprehensive and appropriate. Members, I would welcome your thoughts on the draft document. After we discuss the document, I would welcome a motion to recommend approval if you believe that's appropriate. Members?
Hi, Chair Sherpa. Thank you for. Oh, go ahead, Nicole.
I was just going to say, I thought that they were great. They answered a lot of the questions that we've heard repeatedly. I looked for a few specific ones and found them in there. And I would actually move to approve the FAQs.
Thank you.
I will second that motion.
Sung, you had a second. Did you have any other comments? I heard you speak up.
Oh, I just was wanting to make sure. I think the question one, the intent is to include all pharmacies, including mail order pharmacies, because community pharmacy, usually in the pharmacy world, can be interpreted as community pharmacy. But I think our answer is to try to say that everybody is included, including mail order pharmacies.
Okay. With a motion and second on the floor, I now open the discussion for public comment on the draft FAQs. Any comments in Sacramento?
There's no members of the public in Sacramento.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moderator, we're ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
We are open for public comment on agenda item 10. If you'd like to make a comment on the motion, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users will need to dial *3 to raise a hand. And we will call on people in the order we have requests. As a reminder, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak with a 10-second warning. And we're going to take just a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. And we have a request from Stephen Gray. Hold on just a moment, Stephen. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
Thank you very much. As I've stated before, AB 1286 is a very important piece of legislation. And again, I congratulate the board for proposing it and supporting it. My first recommendation is that in FAQ number 1, put the reference to the code section right in the body of the answer. I see it's there as a reference below, but it would facilitate it if you would just put it right up there. You did that in FAQ number 3, and it was really helpful. In number 2, it would be very helpful to put in an example of the changes that are allowed by law. I mean, it could be including but not limited to. But I've gotten several questions already about, well, what does that mean, allowed by law? And I give them a couple of examples, everything from substituting the generic to changing the dosage form to changing the quantity when it's a medication on chronic care and so forth. And number 9, again, it's a little vague, and it would help if number 9 included some examples that are, that should be, what changes does AB 1286 make as far as the ability to do staffing? This is the big question. what does that really allow the PIC to do? In number 10, same vagueness problem. Give them some examples. There was a lot of discussion, good discussion by the Board of Pharmacy and its task force about what they were trying to get at. And I think that should be carried through to give some examples. In number 11 is about conditions that would be harmful, etc. Does that include staffing? It's not, it's from the context, it implies that it only includes the things mentioned, but is, does it include staffing as one of the situations, or hours that are too long, days that are too many in a row? What does it include? In number 15, clarify that this applies to hospitals or other pharmacies. President Sung Oh made that it applies to all pharmacies, but there was so much discussion and there was so much other in 1286 that applied only to community pharmacies. But not only does it apply to, as was mentioned a few minutes ago, mail order, but central fill, to home infusion, to all other, long-term care, all other kinds of pharmacies that are impacted. And number 16, it's very important to clarify that what transfers means. I think the discussion was
10
all
seconds.
about oral transfers. And then there are a couple of other things that I would like to mention also, but I guess I've run out of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Kathy Goshimi, or Gomeshi. Hold on just a moment.
Comment on the FAQ document. My comment is related to FAQ number 5 and 6, which is the hospital outpatient pharmacies. So the language in the bill itself, as well as the language in the FAQs, sort of align, and they describe exempting errors that are reported, adverse events that are reported to the Department of Public Health. I just wanted to comment that generally speaking, individual errors are only reported to the Department of Public Health if they are required to be reported due to the severity or nature of the event. Routine medication errors are not necessarily individually reported, but are part of a comprehensive med error reduction plan, or MERP plan, that is overseen by the Department of Public Health. And so if there is an outpatient or specialty pharmacy that's part of a health system, typically speaking, those medication errors are going to be part of the health system or hospital's overarching medication error reduction program or plan. And so I just wanted to sort of make that distinction. And if we can obtain further clarification, if hospital outpatient pharmacies are sort of deemed to be exempt from this new reporting requirement. So just clarification of that language, because the hospital licensure and CDPH MERP plan is a little bit different than reportable events to CDPH. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a last look around to make sure that there is no one left. And it looks like those are all of our... Wait, hold on. Gregory Tertes, hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
I think I'm on. Hi, my name is Gregory Tertes. I'm a pharmacist consultant specializing in surgical clinics. I had a question regarding 23. How does the consultant pharmacist certify compliance with the quarterly inspection requirements? My question has to do with, I sent this question to ask the inspector, and am I able to submit a certification piece of paper signed by me with the wording of the certification from the renewal document separate from the physical piece of paper of the renewal that can be included in the renewal document, renewal with payment and professional director's signature. I was informed by Ask the Pharmacist that that was not acceptable, but I couldn't figure out why in the regulation that would be. That is my question.
Thank you. This is public comment, so we're not able to answer your question directly, but I think your question may be more easily understood when we go over the self-assessment for surgical clinics. You may find your answer there also, in addition to the regulations. Any other public comment?
Looking around, there are no other requests for public comment.
Great, thank you. I think one of the things I did want to bring back to the members was the discussion about adding examples in the EGs, and I think that that is potentially a legal issue. Anne, is Noreen or is this a Corinne question that can respond to FAQs and the format that we provide the answers?
Yeah, this is Corinne. I'm happy to answer that.
Thank you, Corinne.
And my response would be, you know, the FAQs are only the intent of them, and what the board is permitted to do is basically restate the law. You cannot, you know, interpret or add, you know, further clarify what the existing law says. So I would advise against adding examples.
Thank you for clarifying. I know that's been our policy in the past. Members, any questions or comments as I bring this back to you? Hearing none, we have a, let's see. We have a motion and a second, so we're ready for a roll call vote. Renee Barker.
Yes.
Indira Cameron Banks.
Yes.
Sung Oh.
Yes.
Nicole Tebow.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, motion passes. Thank you. Next item is number 9, discussion and consideration of proposed revisions to frequently asked questions regarding the use of mobile units. With the amendment to statutory provisions regarding mobile units included in Assembly Bill 663, the board needed to update the frequently asked questions to reflect these changes. Staff have prepared draft versions of the FAQs, and I've reviewed them and believe them to be appropriate. Members, do you have any comments or questions on these revised FAQs? Seeing none, we have no one in Sacramento, so I think we're ready for public comment via WebEx.
We're open for public comment on agenda item 9. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise that hand by tapping the hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a second now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue?
Yes, thank you. With a motion and second on the table, we're ready for a roll call vote. Renee Barker.
I'm sorry, Chairperson Serba, I apologize. I missed who the motion and second was on this one. I apologize.
Oh, you know,
That was my comment too. I didn't hear
I
one.
guess I didn't. It was so quiet, I just skipped right over it. So we do need a motion and second for this proposal.
I can make a motion to approve.
I can second. This is Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you both, and appreciate the reminder, Anne and Corinne. I skipped right over that. So exciting.
Chair Serba, pardon the interruption. I believe you need to offer an opportunity for public comment now that there has been a motion.
Okay, thank you. Since we have no one in Sacramento, we'll go to opportunity for public comment for individuals via WebEx.
All right, we are open for public comment on the motion for agenda item 9. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise that hand by tapping the hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And we have a request from Stephen Gray. Hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone. All right, let's try that again. Stephen, we're going to send you another request to unmute your microphone.
Thank you. I notice in FAQ number 1, there seems to be a conflict between what we did with the earlier motion on FAQs. In other words, in number 1, there are examples given that are not explicitly stated in the law. So I don't understand why, with the intent that this is helpful information to thousands of pharmacists and pharmacy owners, I don't understand why under this mobile units one, you can give examples, but under the previous one, council said it was inappropriate. And in fact, the examples that I was referring to in the previous one were actual statements in statute. So it's not an interpretation of the law. The example that a pharmacist can do generic substitution or extend the quantity or change the dosage unit are actually examples that are in law and statute. So this is giving interpretation and examples. I don't understand the difference between the two subjects as far as board policy goes. Thank you.
Dr. Gray, before you go, where does that specifically state that in number 1? I can't find it.
It says, what is the difference between a mobile unit and a mobile pharmacy? And then it talks about what that is. And it says, in contrast, a mobile pharmacy is used temporarily when a pharmacy is destroyed and damaged. That's not repeating a statute. That's not just quoting the law. That's an interpretation of the difference. So it seemed to be a real significant question is why are interpretations and examples allowed in some FAQs, but not in all FAQs?
Thank you. Any other comments? David, did we lose you?
Yes, my apologies. Next, we're going to hear from Melanie Horn. Hold on, Melanie, while I send you a request to unmute your microphone. And Melanie, it looks like you might be on a mobile device. Oh, you've got it.
Yeah, I got it. Sorry. Move to mobile. Thank you so much. This is just a suggestion on FAQ number 8. In reading this, I was confused by the question at the end of the day, since it's a common term that can be described. At the end of the day, we, meaning like to sum it all up. So my recommendation would be just to look at that verbiage, since the answer provides when the mobile unit is not during business hours. Just a suggestion, since it actually, I didn't interpret the question to be where it was parked after it was closed. So that's my public comment.
Thank you.
All right, and we're going to look around for any remaining hands or requests for comment. And that appears to be everything we've had.
Thank you. Bringing this back to the members, I do have a question, I guess, for Corinne. In question number 1, the second paragraph, what are your thoughts on that? To me, that does not seem to be an example. Legally, what you heard the public comment. What do you think we should do about paragraph?
Yes, I respectfully disagree with the commenter on that. I don't believe that that's an example. It's drawing a contrast between two different statutory definitions.
Okay, thank you. And then members, the comment regarding number 8, we have an opportunity to change the question. Since it's not actually in the comments, it's about the question. So we do have an opportunity to change the question to make that more clear if you believe it needs to be more clear. Or does it stand as is, members?
I'm willing to change But go ahead, Renee.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just gonna say, I mean, it actually does assume that that it's only used during the day. Am I missing something? I mean, somebody could end in the evening. So yeah, what to propose? Like where can the mobile unit be parked when, after use? Something like that. I don't know. Song, you probably have a great suggestion.
I don't have a great suggestion. I was just taking the consideration of the commenter, so could amend it to however is suggested.
I
So I
have,
don't have much recommendation.
I'm okay with the way it is, but I do have a suggestion if we wanted to make it more clear, it would be say, after operational hours, where can the mobile unit be parked?
Or
But
at the
that's also,
completion, yeah.
Or
That's-
when not in use.
I think, sorry, this is Anne.
But I can make them. Okay, go ahead,
So,
Anne.
yeah, just a little bit of a concern when not in use might raise some concerns about if it's during someone's break time or their lunchtime or something like that. I would just, from a staff perspective, be a little bit concerned about using when not in use, just because there are times throughout the day.
Good point,
Why don't
Anne. So maybe outside of operational hours.
Well, why don't I make the motion just to reflecting the comments, and then you can develop this and with Chair Serpa and since we'll need to bring this up for a vote at the full board anyway. So I'll just make a motion not to wordsmith it here and just to reflecting the concerns during the committee discussion. We'll see what comes out, but just hoping to clarify the end of the day. And I'll amend that motion.
Thank you.
And
who
I'll
was the-
still second that motion.
that was your second. Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so I guess we need public comment again. Is that correct, Corinne?
Correct.
So
All
seeing
right.
nobody in Sacramento, we will move on to public comment via WebEx.
We are open for public comment on the amended motion. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise that hand by tapping the hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you everyone for your patience on this. With a new motion and second, I think we're ready for the roll call vote. Renee Barker,
Yes.
Indira Cameron Banks,
Yes.
Sung Oh,
Yes.
Nicole Tebow,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes, motion passes. Thank you. Next item is agenda item 10, discussion and consideration of draft self-assessment form for surgical clinics. Members, another piece of the implementation for Assembly Bill 1286 relates to the establishment of a self-assessment process for surgical clinics. Included in the meeting materials is the draft of the self-assessment for our consideration. I appreciate the work of staff and council to prepare this new document. As I understand the law, because the self-assessment process for surgical clinics is established in statute versus regulation, the board will not need to incorporate the form by reference in regulation. Given that, I believe the approval process is streamlined. If members are comfortable with the provisions contained in the form, I can work with staff to finalize it. Members, I welcome your thoughts, and I also entertain a motion to approve the draft surgical clinic self-assessment form if you believe appropriate, and delegate to me to finalize the form with staff and council prior to presenting it to the board for final approval. Members? Not seeing any comment. I'm waiting for a motion or a second. And a second.
All right, I can make a motion to approve as displayed on the slide.
Thank you, President. Oh, do I have a second?
Yeah, this is Renee. I'll second this one. Thank you.
Thank you. With a motion and second on the floor, we're ready for public comment. And seeing there's nobody in Sacramento, we will go to public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
All right, my fellow WebEx users, please raise those hands by tapping the hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And it looks like our first request is coming from Gregory Curtis. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hi again, this is Gregory Curtis, a pharmacist consultant specializing in surgical clinics. First, I want to appreciate the effort done in creating this self-assessment form. I find it's going to be very useful with my clients that are indeed registered with the Board of Pharmacy. I do want to throw out there that I certainly wish that all surgical clinics throughout the state did have to register with the Board of Pharmacy. I don't know a legal way to make that happen, but I certainly think it would be helpful for my clinics that are not, that don't want to. So that said, I reviewed this in detail, and I did want to ask the question of, I wrote them all out and I submitted them today to Debbie, I believe it was. And my first question is, should I be re-reviewing these comments now, or is written submission acceptable and complete?
You have 3 minutes to give your comments.
Okay.
Those that are submitted today were not received before the meeting, so we won't be able to review them for this meeting. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my first comment would be there was no information on how to pre-submit these comments in the agenda. I don't know if they're posted elsewhere, but for future purpose, I wonder if we could add to agendas to put instructions in how to submit written comments. So that said, so my first comment has to do with checking the type of clinic. There are 3 examples. There are Medicare certified, accredited, and one other version. And some of my clients are both accredited and Medicare accredited, and I wanted to know how that should be completed in that form. Topic number 2 has to do with clinics purchasing drugs at wholesale, and it's 1.1. And my question is, some surgical clinics purchase from retail pharmacy, and clarification on whether they're actually allowed to, although I don't think any of them are actually registered with the Board of Pharmacy that do that. Topic number 3 is 4.5, which has to do with prior to the time of accepting ownership of drugs. If the wholesaler provides access to TQSA pedigree information on a website, are they therefore also required to have that on paper? Topics number 4 is regards to 5.7, 5.8, and 5.9, having to do with prescription and prescriber requirements. These are roles that are outside the surgical clinic's scope. They are up to their responsibilities of prescribers who are not employees of surgical clinics and therefore not under their control. So my suggestion is that 5.7, 5.8, and 5.9 be removed because it's out of the scope of the role of a surgical clinic. Topic number 5 has to do with 6.6. The consultant pharmacist reviews all the inventory activities performed. This has to do with the reconciliation report. The regulation states that the consultant pharmacist shall review all inventory activities performed and inventory reconciliation reports prepared. However, the wording in the self-assessment states that the consultant pharmacist prepares the inventory reconciliation, and that verbiage changes the role from the surgical clinic to prepare it to the pharmacist consultant to prepare it. And then in 7.8, the wording states, whenever requested by a patient or patient's representative, the pharmacy provides translated directions for use. And since this is directed at surgical clinics, I think that wording would be best served changing that to from pharmacy to surgical clinic. And then in section 8, drug compounding, there's location to supply one 503A sterile compounding pharmacy and one 503B outsourcing facility. And I have clients that order from 2 and 3 and sometimes 4 outsourcing facilities. And so I wasn't sure how that would be completed with multiple examples of that since there's only location for one. I did submit all of this information in writing as well as I think I just went through them all. So I thank you for your time. I appreciate all the effort on that, and I look forward to implementing this, hopefully with some changes and clarification.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
There are no other requests for comment. Oh, hold on. Yes, we do have a request. Hold on, Melanie Horn. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity for public comment. I had one question on the self-assessment form in Section 8, drug compounding 8.5. The clinic handles hazardous drugs in compliance with the current United States Pharmacopoeia Chapter USP 800. USP 800 put out a recent intention to enforceability of USP 800 up to the point of compounding without the ability to or the intent for the standard to be to actions of administration. And from a surgical clinic standpoint, I'm curious how the term handles would be interpreted if that was fully through the process of administration and disposal, and if the California language will require that further step than USP. So mostly just a question around the term handle. USP 800 standard kind of drew that from the point of receiving all the way to the point of disposal, but then put out a comment that it's only enforceable from the compounding side due to its applicability or reference in USP 797. So just curious if a clinic had ready to use hazardous drugs and was not compounding, would the consultant pharmacist stop there, or would they be looking at those further steps? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, and that was probably our last one. Let's take a look just to be sure. And those are all of our requests for public comment.
Thank you. I think coming back to members, we have a few areas to discuss. I'll take them kind of a little bit at a time. First comment is self-assessments are just restating what's in law and regulation. So there is no addition in the self-assessment, but the self-assessment should also be easy to understand and to be in line with current law and regulation, because we're just restating what's there. So my first question, I guess, would be, I don't know, Anne, if this would be you or Corinne, or who would be able to answer the question about 5.7, 5.8, 5.9. And that talks about controlled substances and cures reporting. I believe it is appropriate to be in here, but the public comment was stating that that's not appropriate to be in the self-assessment. Especially 5.8, the clinic must report theft and loss of prescription forms if they are in their possession. So
Yes.
I don't understand the comment, and I'd rather just keeping them in, but legally, is there a reason why it should not be in here?
So this is Anne. I believe that the inclusion is appropriate, and this was vetted by council ahead of time. We're happy to flag those 3 questions and ask council to take a second look at them.
Okay. Members, any comments about that section before I move on to the other couple comments? I believe that probably we need to check and flag 6.6 to make sure the right word is there regarding preparing inventory reconciliation reports. who is doing the preparing? Is it the consultant pharmacist or is the WHO? I think is, it was brought to our attention that that may not be exactly what the regulation states. Does anybody have any comment, or if we just go ahead and review that? I'm very quiet. I believe it's something that's really easy on 8.2 is to just add additional lines because it's common for facilities and organizations to have more than one outsourcing facility. And although you could probably squeeze them all in, I'm not adverse to adding more lines. Anne or Corinne, any challenges with that? I think it's mostly a Steve question.
Yeah, as an alternative, we could potentially say, use additional, attach additional sheet as necessary.
Yeah, I think on that one, I would go with Anne's suggestion, just add a comment. If more than one, please attach additional page at the end or something along the lines.
Okay.
I think this is Renee. I mean, so I would agree. I would, because you don't want to just put a bunch of lines and then there's still not enough. Kind of like how it is for adding staff, in the self-assessment forms. There's only a certain amount of space, and larger institutions always have to add additional addendum pages with all staff listed. So probably similar to that.
Thank you. And then lastly, I have no comment on 8.5 except to state that that is the title of USP 800, handling of hazardous. So that's the word where that word comes from, is from the title. Members, any additional comments or questions after public comment? So did the motion allow, the motion did allow me to finalize the form with staff and council prior to presenting it to the board. Is that correct? Is that where our current motion is?
I did state as displayed on the slide, Chair Serpa, but I can amend the motion.
That's what I heard too, what was on the slide.
Okay, yeah, so what I had was the motion would be approve draft surgical self-assessment form and delegate to the committee chair to finalize the form with staff and council prior to presenting to the board for final approval.
Sounds good. I will amend my motion, just to be safe.
And who was our second?
Renee, I believe, or Nicole? Renee, I think, was second on this one.
I was.
Okay, and since we've changed the motion, we have to go back to public comment. And seeing nobody in Sacramento, let's again open for public comment for those participating via WebEx.
We are accepting public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise that hand by tapping the hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand. And this is on the amended motion. First, we're going to call on Gregory Tertis. Hold on just a moment, please. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
First, I want to thank you for addressing my comments. Just for clarification, as a pharmacist consultant, I spend most of my day in surgical clinics. So I just want to clarify, once you make whatever appropriate adjustments you want, where would we see the next draft of this form? Would that be in materials for the whole board, or would it be in, like, where would the next version of this show up so that I know where to look? Forgive me, it's not my expertise.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, this is Steve Gray. I just make a suggestion. The question was asked on topic 5.7, whether that was belongs in this or not. And I think it gets back to the purpose of the clinic getting a license from the Board of Pharmacy. The license from the Board of Pharmacy allows the clinic to buy prescription drugs, including controlled substances, as an entity. And what the rest of the self-assessment is all about the proper record keeping, the proper dispensing, the proper administration, et cetera, of all those drugs that the clinic has acquired because of its license with the Board of Pharmacy. So what 5.7 says is for each prescription, and I think what it means is for each prescription dispensed from the clinic's stock, then obviously that has to be reported appropriately and handled appropriately. And so I think that's the gist of it. For 5.9, the clinic's prescribers, I think that, and I could be wrong, but I think, yes, the clinic does not employ physicians. They can't be employed by a clinic. They are contracted with certain clinics, but other prescribers such as nurse practitioner, PAs, and so forth can be clinic employees as long as they're supervised. And we now have nurse practitioners, for an example, that are no longer necessary by law, a few of them, to be employees and to practice without physician supervision. So I believe those are, with those kind of interpretations, I don't know if they need to be clarified, those are appropriate for inclusion in the self-assessment form. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a look around to ensure that we don't have anyone still making a request. That was our last request.
Thank you. And just to repeat the motion, which I think will answer the individual's question also, is that the motion is approve the draft surgical clinic self-assessment form and delegate to the committee chair to finalize the form with staff and council prior to presenting to the board for final approval. That's the motion, and we're ready for a roll call vote. Renee Barker.
Yes.
Indira Cameron Banks.
Yes.
Sung Oh.
Yes.
Nicole Tebow.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, motion passes. Thank you. Next agenda item 11, discussion, consideration, and possible action on self-assessment forms 17M13, 17M14, and 17M26. Members, you may recall in February 2023, the board voted to update the community pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, and wholesaler third-party logistic provider self-assessments forms through a streamlined Section 100 regulation process. It was our belief that given that the form restates the law, we do not create requirements that are already established in statute and regulation. Therefore, the streamlined approach was possible. Regrettably, the board has recently been advised by the Office of Administrative Law that we cannot use this streamlined process. Therefore, we're reviewing those documents today. The updated versions of the three forms are in our package. The forms do not create laws, but rather restate law, and I believe we can focus our discussion on the approval of the forms to the provisions that were incorporated. I've reviewed all three forms and believe that they are appropriate. Members, I welcome your thoughts, but would also entertain a motion, if you believe appropriate, that we move forward using the motion that's on the slide. And I think we have to read that into the record. Members, do you have any comments, or do I have a motion?
Hi, Maria. This is Nicole. I just wanted to announce that I have to leave the meeting. Thank you.
Can you stay for the vote, or I think we're okay without you, though? That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you,
sorry.
Nicole. No problem.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hi,
Any-
Maria. The only comment on community pharmacy, since we are now amending it, should we also incorporate some of the AB 1286 into it,
So
or is it already done?
Keeping in mind this is a regulatory process, that will be the next round. And unfortunately, as we have had another self-assessment, because it's part of regulation, sometimes we're still approving old regulations before new regulations are added. So that will come.
Okay, in that case, I will make a motion to recommend initiation of a rulemaking to amend California Code of Regulation Title 16 sections 1715 and 1784 as proposed to be amended, and self-assessment form 17M-13, 17M-14, and 17M-26 incorporated by reference, authorize the EO to further refine the language consistent with the committee's discussion and to make any non-substantive changes prior to presenting the proposed rulemaking to the board.
Very good. Thank you. Do we have a second?
This is Renee. I'll second.
Thank you. A motion and a second is on the floor, so we're ready for public comment. We have nobody in Sacramento, so we're ready for public comment via WebEx.
All right, we are open for public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise that hand by tapping the hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. And it looks like our first request is coming from John Gray. You may need to dial *6 in order to unmute.
Hi, good afternoon. This is John Gray, registered pharmacist with Kaiser Permanente. Thanks for the opportunity to comment. I have comments on both the community pharmacy and the hospital pharmacy self-assessment forms, but it's essentially the same law for both. The community pharmacy self-assessment adds item 6.14. And the hospital pharmacy self-assessment adds item 7.11, which restates the pharmacist professional continuing education requirement. And then the community pharmacy self-assessment adds item 9.9, and hospital pharmacy self-assessment adds item 10.12, which restates the new pharmacy technician requirement to obtain at least 1 hour participation in a cultural competency course. I guess I would encourage the committee to think about how restating that requirement will be useful to a PIC in completing the self-assessment. Whether a pharmacy technician completes the cultural competency course or a pharmacist completes the required CE to maintain their license is a matter between the individual licensee and the board. And not necessarily a matter that a PIC of a pharmacy ought to be gatekeeping or validating. So I guess unless the board's expectation is that a PIC is going to ask every single one of your pharmacy staff, hey, did you do your CE? Hey, did you do your CE? Hey, did you do your CE? I find adding this these particular questions to the self-assessments to be of little to no value. So I'd encourage the committee to reconsider the addition and consider deleting those items from the proposed self-assessment. Thanks very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you.
And we're going to check for additional requests. Hold on just a moment. There are no other requests for public comment.
Thank you. Bringing it back to the members. Do you have any additional comments after hearing the public comment? I can't see any hands, but I don't hear anything. Okay, so I think we're ready to go on to the vote. Based on the motion that's on the screen and that was read into the record. Renee Barker.
Yes.
Indira Cameron Banks.
Yes.
Sung Oh.
Yes.
Nicole is no longer present, and the chair votes yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 12, review and discussion of enforcement statistics. The meeting materials include a summary of enforcement statistics for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. The board has received 1,639 complaints and closed 1,371 investigations. The board has revoked 35 licenses, accepted the disciplinary surrender of 9 licenses. I believe that's 9 licenses in my notes here. Formally denied 2 applications and imposed other levels of discipline against 33 licensees and or applicants. As of January 1st, 2024, the board has 1,582 field investigations pending. The materials in the meeting materials provide a breakdown of the average time frame for each of the various stages of the field investigations. Members, do you have any thoughts on the enforcement statistics? Seeing none, we'll open it for public comment. And since we have nobody left to comment in Sacramento, we'll go to public comment via WebEx.
We are once again open for public comment via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in user style *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue?
Yes, we'll move on. Thank you. Our last item on the agenda is item number 11, future meetings and adjournment. Before we adjourn today, I'd like to thank everyone present for your time and participation. We had a very lively and detailed meeting. I appreciate everyone's participation. Our next meeting is currently scheduled for April 11th, 2024. Please monitor the board's website for updates. The meeting is adjourned, and thank you.